Welcome to Consciously Inspired Minds, where we ditch the default and live life by design. I'm your host, Brandy White, personal growth enthusiast, entrepreneur, and lifestyle coach. I host conversations with creators, entrepreneurs, healers, and educators committed to living a life of truth, intention, and connection. Understanding how to discover their inner vision to design their outer world. Our guests take us on a journey of what it means to embody a life of conscious inspiration, joy, impact, and service. Get ready to be inspired. Welcome to Consciously Inspired Minds. I'm really excited for our guest today. I have Brittney Frietch. Brittney is a realtor and broker in our local Loveland community and is just making so much impact and making such a difference here in our community, but also in our neighboring communities. So I'm excited for her to share with you how she is giving back and building her service and impact. So Brittney Frietch is the founder of BF Realty, a first of its kind boutique style brokerage operating under a Teamerage business model. She also serves as the team lead of the Brittney Frietch Team, which ranks as the number 2 sales team in Greater Cincinnati. Brittney Frietch Realty has now expanded into 2 states with locations in Loveland, Ohio and Fort Thomas, Kentucky. Brittney is an educated woman with a bachelor's degree in business management from Northern Kentucky University. She has accumulated over $200 million in career sales, broken records, and disrupted the industry. She's received many prestigious awards, including Business of the Year, recognition for being in the top 5% in revenue by Cincinnati Magazine, top 40 under 40, Real Estate Hall of Fame inductions, and has landed numerous leadership roles within her community. Brittney is committed to serving her communities and strives to create a hyper-local brokerage that offers customized experiences for both agents and clients. Through partnerships with community leaders, she aims to make a positive impact and contribute to a better world. You can have everything in life you want if you will just help other people get what they want. Brittney, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, Brandy. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's such a treat to have you on today. And us living in the same community, we were just chatting before we started to record, and Brittney and I have mingled within the same networking groups and have seen each other in passing. And of course, I see all the amazing things that you and your team are doing across social media and the impact that you're making in our community. And I was so excited to invite you on the show today and to learn more about your business, about your family-owned business and what that means to you, and really the why behind Brittney Frietch Realty. So you guys, this is going to, for all of our listeners, this is going to be such an inspiring episode. And just doing some research prior to bringing Brittney on today, my heart was just so lit up. And so I appreciate you, everything that you're doing, the impact that you're making and inspiring other women in our community and giving them a platform and a place to really share their gifts. So thank you.
Of course. I'm excited that you have created this platform for people like me to even go on and share and inspire other people. So thank you for even following that gut feeling that you had that this was a need that our community needed and listeners needed. And you went for it and you created it and look at you thriving. So kudos to you and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yeah. And I cannot wait to get into some of, what I know both you and I are passionate about, which is how we are embracing the fear of new challenges and making big decisions and how we're embracing that and moving through that and then celebrating the outcomes on the other side. So we'll get into some more of that. But first, I always like to kick off, Brittney, with a little bit about your childhood and what was little Brittney like and how did that impact and really inform who you are and where you are today?
Yeah, well, some may be surprised to know where I come from and what little Brittney was like because she was a bit bossy, which makes sense why I am where I am. But no, so I was born and raised in Northern Kentucky, and I have been on the backs of dirt bikes since I could walk. I'd holding onto the gas tank lid barefoot, flying through the woods with my brother or my dad or uncles, cousins, swimming in an above ground pool and shooting shotguns. So
Wow.
that's kind of where I come from. I had a older brother, still have him. Sorry, didn't had. I have an older brother, 10 years older than me. And then I had a little brother who was about 5.5, 6 years younger than me. And so early on, it was this brief honeymoon stage of like, oh, this is fun, even though, a little bit dysfunctional in our family as far as parents go. But my youngest brother got diagnosed with leukemia when he was 9 months old. And we lived at Cincinnati Children's a great deal. So we lived in Walton, Kentucky, and would commute to Cincinnati Children's. So God bless those nurses there because they raised me for about 9 months. Pretty sure I had crackers and cheese for dinner in the hallway whenever they would muster something up or, pack extra lunch for me because he went through treatment trying to beat that. But ultimately, he succumbed to his leukemia diagnosis when he was 18 months old. So that really kind of began the exiting the honeymoon phase at a very young age. Within 6 months, my brother had passed away. My parents subsequently divorced, and we moved out of my childhood home. So it was fight or flight from there on. And I was never really placed in a comfortable environment. So I have never really known what a comfort zone feels like. Comfort zones don't exist in my world, and they never really have. I have had to figure out survival or figure out where I'm sleeping that night because divorced parents, you kind of don't know if you're coming or going or who's picking you up or what bed you're sleeping in or where you're going to find yourself. So I was always able to move or shake, not because of choice, but because I had to. So I think that was pivotal for what I am now. I also learned how to be very poignant with my needs because maybe they wouldn't be taken care of. So I had to figure out how to fend for myself, and which led to my bossiness. That's not going to work for me. Sorry, we're not doing that. Or yeah, actually I am doing that. And you can tell me no all you want, but authority figures, there's few and far between around me. So really, I'm the authority figure here, which
Right.
that then, led me into some trouble into my teen years because I was left to my own devices.
And I was just going to ask you give us some examples of what that looks like for you, really kind of pushing back on authority and sort of doing things your way and making sure that your needs got met, whether that would have been in risky ways or healthy ways. But can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like for you growing up?
Yeah,
as an adolescent?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So parents moved around a bit. Just my mom lived in Ohio for a while. My dad moved back to Kentucky for a while. So I didn't really have a home once all of that happened very early on. And we just were movers and shakers. And I ended up trying to find like my family outside of my family because I didn't really have a safe place or a place to call home or a place that I felt I belonged or I was protected or cared for. So I went out seeking in all of the wrong places as an adolescent and a teen, fell into a lot of the wrong crowds actually, and ended up 16 and pregnant, which I know there's like a really cool TV show about now, but it wasn't cool when I was doing it. So that led to another life-altering decision for myself. And obviously, choices were available to me and choices were being pushed upon me to this day. I won't name them because it's part of their story, but part of my story is they were, we can get rid of this problem. We don't have to have this problem. We can, I don't care how far along you are. We'll ship you to Mexico and money talks. We'll get rid of this problem for sure. Or at the minimum, adoption, right? Like either abortion, adoption, or something. And for whatever reason, God had other plans for that. He said, this is actually how I'm getting you back on track, Britt. You've gone astray, and I have allowed your life to be a complete and colossal mess since birth, but I'm going to use this child to put you back on the path that I have for your life. So I became a mother at the very young age of 17, the end of my junior year in high school. Not a lot of people know that about me. And I chose to have him against all advice around me. All of the adults in my world, except for one, were supportive of me making this decision. So
Wow.
if you can imagine a 16 or 17-year-old, well, just imagine just high school. That's hard, right? High school is just hard. It's a hard age. It's a hard time for any kid. But to go through high school, and I've talked to my girls about this before, but to go through high school pregnant, squeezing into a desk where the chair and the desk are connected, the looks that you get, the shame that you feel, the embarrassment you're put under, the, oh gosh, poor Brittney, she's just not going to amount to anything and her life's over. Well, really, when I came into the world, my life was really kind of not even rainbows and sunshine. So it wasn't like what life was over, because I didn't really have something that I would grieve being over, being in survival mode your whole life. You're just kind of like, oh, well, life's over for what life? So fast forward, I finished high school, which fewer than 40% of teen moms do. And then I subsequently enrolled at NKU and got my bachelor's degree by age 22, which fewer than 2% of teen moms do before the age of 30. So that was a very pivotal thing in my life that happened as an early adolescent.
Was there a person in your life at the time? I know that you said that there was one person who was supporting the pregnancy and was in that value of having the child with you and aligned with that. Was it that person that was supporting you through that time, or who was supporting you at that time to get you through that challenge? And I can only imagine the mindset you had to overcome to continue to grow, build, thrive, focus on the future. Who was that, or what was that for you?
Yeah. I will call it a God thing. I can only credit it to God's grace and God's faithfulness. And I can see his fingerprints all over my life since birth on out, and how terrible a lot of my upbringing and childhood had been. And when Braden, my son, was born, there was this switch that flipped inside my soul that was like, all of this running around with the wrong people and all of these survival methods that I've come up with, and all of this was fine for me, but that's not good enough for him. So it was like this, I was less important, but then now he didn't ask to be here, and he deserves way better than all of that over here. So it was this immediate God thing where it was like, he said, I'm sending this child to you to literally set you on the path that I have for you and set you on your purpose that I've put you here for. And he utilized a teen birth to do that. And that was probably the only thing that could have done it, honestly. And it was truly just, I wanted better for him. And so it was like everything else was gone. Like, okay, what can I do to drudge forward? I'm enrolling in college. I'm going to do that for him. I had really no dreams or aspirations to go to college because, when you're in survival mode your whole life, you don't really dream of the future.
So did that just feel like the next best thing for you to do? Like, okay, yep, this makes sense. This is what most people my age do. Let's go to college and see what happens. Did you have any idea about the trajectory of your life after that step? Or it was just, let's enroll. This sounds like a good start.
Yeah. No, I wasn't really raised in an environment where going to college was like normal. So my dad is one of the first, if not the first, college educated person on his side of the family. And he didn't get his degree until his 40s, and he went to night school, and it took him like 7 to 8 years to get his bachelor's degree in night school at UC. And then on my mom's side, I can't think of a college educated person. I know my mom went on to get an associate's degree later in life. So it wasn't like something that was a part of my upbringing, like, oh yeah, you just go to college and then college lands you a job and then you get a salary and then that wasn't a part of my world. Like that wasn't, maybe at school people were talking about it, but I wasn't even a part of those conversations because that just wasn't a thing in my growing up. Now my dad would push it because he'd be like, hey, I've made so much more money since I got my degree. You should also get your degree. So I would say he pushed that a lot because it changed his life and his trajectory. And so it was kind of like, okay, well, that's the only example that I have that could get me somewhere. So let's do that.
So fast forward, take us through those college years. I can only imagine how challenging that was to have a baby. And were you parenting that child on your own? Were you a single parent, or did you have support to get you through that time? What did that look like?
Yeah. So in college, I did it in about 3.5 years instead of 4. I went to summer school. I loaded up with 18 hours a semester to get it over with because I wasn't trying to go out and party. I was like here on a mission to get this degree so I can move on. Yeah. So I really hammered it out. And in the interim, during that 3.5 years, I had my second child because one wasn't enough. Why not do 2 during college?
Why not?
So I had my second child, and I also got married in 3.5 years and getting a degree. So lived a lot of life, bought our first house, got married, and had Malia, who is our middle child. And, so I would be up in the middle of the wee hours with I don't even know if they still make those half moon pillows anymore where you're the nursing pillows. I'd be nursing and like typing up a, business plan for my entrepreneur professor. And it wasn't college like most people experience college, but that's not what I was there for. I was there to do better by not even myself still, like just for my child.
Beautiful. And, I think my childhood was a bit chaotic as well. And there's a lot of similarities around not ever feeling at home in this state of survival and how can I do better? How can I be better? And this constant chase in my life and really thirsty for validation and making sure that I have new opportunity for me was really, really important and exhausting all at the same time because it was a lot of pressure that I put on myself. However, looking back, and I think that you can relate to this, is the resiliency that builds. And it sounds like you were very equipped and resourceful and coming from this place of yes and taking risks now, healthier risks, I'm sure, but overcoming that fear, embracing that fear, however you want to look at it, and just continuing to show up anyway. So you have 2 children, you're married, and you have 4 children now. Is that right?
3. We have 3.
Oh,
we
3.
Stopped at 3. That third one.
You stopped at 3. Yeah. So take me through, okay, you're building your family. You are a stay-at-home mom for multiple years, right? Raising the kids, PTO, making lunches, doing that whole thing. Your husband has a great career and is thriving there, or so you think, and begin to notice Drew, your husband, is not happy where he's at. And then it's like, okay, well, where do things go from here? Let's take our listeners through how we started to transition to Brittney Frietch Realty and all the excitement that was going on that led you to the success that you're experiencing today. So take us back to the beginning of BF Realty.
Yeah. So BF Realty was almost born while I was in college, if you really think about it, because I got a business management degree and a minor in marketing and entrepreneurship. So I always kind of knew if I was going, I always used to say, like, people always asked, well, not after I got pregnant, but before then, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I would jokingly say, I want to be the boss. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know that I was born to lead. Like, that's all I knew about myself. I didn't know how I was getting there. And then certainly when I got pregnant, people were like, oh yeah, she's going to lead. Nobody, like nobody's following her anywhere. But when I was in college, Drew and I had a conversation and we had this number in mind. And it was, hey, if you were able to have this salary annually by the time I graduated, I would get to stay home with the kids because I hadn't been able to stay home with them yet when they were, squishy little infants in their pumpkin seats. I had to take them to school with me or take them to daycare so I could go to class. And I was still working part-time as well. So it was kind of like we had this number and he ended up getting to that number by the time I graduated. So I had the luxury of staying home for 10 years and we had our third and moved to Ohio during that time as well. Once I mean, I did it all, just like you said, PTO, butterfly cut sandwiches for lunch. I was the team mom for everything. I was leading women's Bible study groups at my church. I was just always involved in whatever my kids were doing or whatever could help me become better or learn more. Like, I just was never one to just sit still because my upbringing didn't allow me to sit still. I was always moving and shaking since birth. So I was always moving and shaking in motherhood and being a wife, and anywhere in my circle, I was always kind of like putting myself like, I'll take the lead. Nobody wants to do that. I'll bring the snacks. Nobody wants to do that. I got it. Fast forward from there, during that time, actually not fast forward, but during that time, we didn't really intentionally buy and sell properties and move and do things, but we did. So we had a knack for buying properties, making them nice, looking like Pottery Barn magazine, and then ended up selling them just like, oh, I wonder what we get for this place. Not out of like a desire or a need to, but just like out of curiosity. And it was like, we would call our agent and say, hey, if we can get this, we'll sell. If not, we're just going to pull it off in 30 days. And every time.
Where did that idea come from to even start to invest in property? So
when Drew was young, he had left his career and started flipping homes with his uncle in the Hyde Park area, Sims Township, like very nice homes, like think $600,000 to $800,000 range homes. So he learned how to be very handy. He learned how to do things himself. He learned the game of like going down to the sheriff's auctions and getting houses that way that weren't even active listings on the internet. The public didn't really know about them. So he brought a whole skill set with him. And then I was just a really good homemaker. Like whatever I did, like I did it, So I was able to have a knack for just like, oh, I can make a home. I've never really had a home. Let's make a home. So that desire for me not ever really having home to be able to create that home, I think I was on a whole next level of being able to create a home because I had never experienced that. I'd only seen it on TV or in magazines. And I was able to turn that into reality because I never had it. I only dreamed of it. So real estate kind of was born out of both of those experiences for Drew and for I. And like you had kind of mentioned, he climbed his way up the ladder. So I'm in college and we have this number in place, like, hey, if you can get to this salary, I'm going to stay home with the babies because I've not been able to do that. He got there. And I mean, he worked there for 20 years. Like he started there in like high school digging holes and worked his way up to vice president. There was some new ownership that took over like his last 5 years. And we realized that the company wasn't going in a direction that Drew could get behind or Drew believed in. And he just kind of started seeing some things happen that were, one, wearing on his heart, and two, affecting him health-wise. So when we kind of looked at each other, Ashlyn, our youngest, our third, was in like part-time preschool at the time. And it's like, okay, well, if there's a time to kind of start getting into something, now's the time. I've got this degree that I didn't even use for anything. Good call on that. But I have it.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And, and maybe even subconsciously it's serving a purpose, right? And if nothing else, being able to kind of model getting through hard things, because that's exactly what you did. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, if nothing else, it's to defy that odd of less than 2% of teen moms being able to do that and saying, I did it. Thanks. Check off that box. So we kind of had that conversation of what are we kind of already good at? So Drew had already been flipping homes and investing and doing the work and learning how to be handy and learning all these skill sets. And I knew how to make a home like it was nobody's business. And, by the time our agent would show up, we would know the list price that we wanted because we were on the auditor site already kind of nosying our neighbors, like what did they buy for and what did they sell for? And, so we would say, this is the list price, we're ready for pictures. And if you sell in 30 days, good. If not, we're staying here. And so when the new ownership kind of took over, he was miserable. I could see that. And we said, let's not start Brittney climbing a corporate ladder because Drew's already been doing that. And that's not going to get him out of there any faster because not having utilized anything and staying home for 10 years isn't going to start me at the midline. So we said, okay, let's give real estate a shot. And that happened in 2017. So in 2017, I signed up for real estate school, and it wasn't an online option back then. You had to drive to class. And I drove to class.
A lot of efforting, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Nights and weekends, because we didn't have childcare. So he would come home and watch the kids, and I would drive to class until 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And on my way, I had to drive from the Claremont County side of Loveland, for those who are local, and I had to drive all the way to Westchester. And for whatever reason, I would find myself driving through downtown Loveland a lot. And I would get stopped at the red light on the corner of Carl Brown and West Loveland Avenue. And at the time, it was Copper Pearl on the corner. And I would sit there and I would pray, and I'd be like, all right, Lord, because right, you're lost. You're always in survival mode. You got kind of comfy with staying home for a minute. And now you're like, whoop, yep, get uncomfortable again, because it's time to move and shake. Don't sit down for too long. And I would look over and I'd say, all right, Lord, if this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what you want me to do, then I'm going to have an office on the corner right here. My office is just going to be right here. And I would just do that. And I would talk out loud, all right, but if this isn't what I'm supposed to do, close the door, because I don't have time to waste. Drew's unhappy, his health's declining because of the stress and the anxiety, and I have to do something and quick. So if this is it, great, bless it. And if it's not, point me in the other direction and slam the door in my face.
Where did that faith come from when you were praying out loud? Where does that come from? Well,
two things. So my mom was always a very faithful woman. She can quote Bible scriptures. I've been to every church under the sun. I've been to Protestant. I have been to Baptist. I've been to Catholic. I went to Catholic school. But she has always been able to just kind of rattle off in any situation, Joshua says on, book blah, chapter blah, verses, da, 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 da. And she can just rattle it all off. So that was kind of growing up, I could just hear it on repeat, and I almost rolling my eyes, because as an adolescent and a kid, you're just like, oh my God, shut up. But that was...
When did you start to believe it?
When I was staying home, I went to a thing called Chirp at St. Columban, which is our parish that we go to. It's called Christ Renews His Parish, and they have a women's retreat and a men's retreat. And I went to that women's retreat, and that was the first time in my whole life, because everybody would be like, oh yeah, listen for God's voice. And I'm like, listen, God's never spoke to me. I don't know what his voice sounds like, but kudos to you if he talks to you. But I went to Chirp, which was right after Ashlyn was born in 2011-ish. And he spoke to me there. And it was a pivotal moment in my life, a pivotal weekend. And then I stayed on the giving team as well. So I was involved in that for a year. And that really projected forward, I can see all the fingerprints of I haven't survived on my own, actually. He's carried me through every bit of it. And I've just kind of been blindly stumbling through his path that he's laid before me.
Can you tell us about that moment? Would you mind sharing about that moment?
Yeah. So for those of you who have not had the opportunity to do something like this, I highly suggest it. So, the first night you spend the night, it's a weekend thing. And that first night you're up until the wee hours of the morning. And I think it's probably intentional, because you're just you shut off any smile that you had before. The small talk's gone, right?
You're delusional.
You're tired, you're delusional. You're just oh my Lord. So they take you into the sanctuary. And the lights are dimmed, they have music going, and you just have your Bible and you have your journal. And it just you just have a lot of reflective time. They have reconciliation during that time, again, in the wee hours of the morning. So if you want to go to reconciliation because you're grappling with something from your past, or you've been carrying something on your shoulders for so long, which by this point, I've got I've been carrying around a lot of baggage with me. So I was able to kind of release a lot of the baggage and the shame and the embarrassment and everything that I had kind of carried with me up until that point. And again, I had my 3 kids at this time. Ashlyn, I believe, was 1 when I went to this. And I just heard him say, this was my plan for you. Everything that's happened, this has been intentional. This is the plan I have for you. And you're okay, and you're already forgiven. And you need to stop being ashamed, because I'm going to use your story to bring more people to me and to save more hearts and more lives. So I knew that you could go. I built you for all the things that you've been through. I have created you to be a warrior and to also not be quiet, because I know I gave you a big mouth too.
So what changed? Yeah. Go ahead. Please.
Yeah. So instead of me kind of being shameful of being that teen mom who defied all odds, or being shameful of my upbringing, or wondering the judgment, because, from Walton, Kentucky to Loveland, Ohio, it's a little demographic difference. Just a bit, a kid that grows up riding dirt bikes barefoot from the time she can walk, shooting shotguns in an above ground pool is different than the town of Loveland. And so I would hide a lot of things, and I would maybe do extra things so people would be like, oh, she's involved in everything. Look at her. She's the team mom, and she's the room mom, and she's always baking the best cookies, and they're all from scratch, and Pinterest and blah. And it was this, you got to stop hiding behind that, because I literally put you through those things, brought you out the other side, and I need you to share. Because when you come to the gates of heaven, you're going to be able to look behind you and say, Lord, look at how many souls I brought. Because you put me through this, and only through you am I here. Because there's nothing that I could have done in my life to be where I'm at now. It is all.
So coming out of that retreat, what changed about you? What could Drew say, when you came home from that retreat? Because I can only imagine you come home and you tell Drew, like, listen, something has happened and something has changed. And I'm sure you took action right then and there, right? Knowing you. So tell us about what that felt like, and then the action you took.
Yeah. So it was an incredible moment. And the way that Chirp works is you are on the receiving team for the weekend, where you receive all this goodness, you receive all these blessings, and then you have a decision like the following week after your weekend to decide if you want to be on the giving team or not. So if you want, being a part of the giving team is sharing like your testimony.
Wow.
So I kind of had to make that decision, and I had to go home and be like, hey, Drew, we sharing this testimony, or what are we doing?
Wow.
Because it's being asked of me, and it changed my life. So I felt like, okay, if I shared, he clearly said, hey, I've put you through these things to change lives. This is my first, this is my first opportunity to do this. So I said, yes, I committed myself to a whole year. And again, having littles at home. And we met weekly, sometimes a couple times a week, with this group of women, 18, 20 of us, maybe more. And we would sit in a circle and holding hands, singing hymns, saying prayers. We would meet regularly. And then I had to share. I had to share with them first. And then they kind of prepare you for that whole year. You're prepared that you're going to share to strangers who you don't even know is going to be there. And that was scary, right? Great. I don't even know who's going to be in the room, and you want me to just share. Okay. And so that was my first opportunity to give my testimony of where I had come from. The feedback from that, from the women who I didn't know until that weekend, that was the receiving team for that year. And I stayed up until the wee hours of the morning talking to them in the kitchen, because they're just like, oh my God, how do you put up with some of us who are complaining about our BMW being in the shop for 3 days? And I'm like, well, you're annoying, but I don't tell you that.
Right. It's all frame of reference, right? You can hold space in that way. Yeah. How healing, I'm sure that was for you.
It was very much so. It was scary at first, because it's not, everybody has chapters in their lives that they don't want to read aloud. You kind of tuck those chapters under a bed in a closet and just keep the lights turned off.
You hide those shadows, and I think that's the hardest part of, gosh, when you continue to really up level in life. Our businesses can only be as good as our inner self and growth, right, can go. And so how can we continue to look inward and address our shadows and address the shame and the guilt or whatever it is that we're feeling, and not only address it, but then share it out loud, and because then it's real, it's real, and then continuing to hold space and have compassion for yourself to release some of that guilt, that shame, find that forgiveness, and then really being in connection with those other women and being in community and feeling held, supported, I'm sure was just incredibly life-changing. And how has that impacted your business? today.
Yeah.
You kind of going through that experience and doing some of that inner work and really showing up for you first.
Yes, I can't wait to share that part. I am going to go back there was a moment in the sanctuary real quick because I have to share this part, and I think that we are called to be this person in other people's lives when people share with us. So there was reconciliation, like I had explained. You didn't have to go, but like Father was there if you wanted or you felt led to go into reconciliation. So I did after a minute. Like a lot of other ladies went before me, and I'm like, all right, it's on my heart to go. So I went. And I'm like weeping and I'm saying all these things that I'm ashamed of or all these things that I've done and all these things I need to confess. And, I'm thinking like a lightning rod, like I'm going to burn the place down. and Father looks at me and he says, "Do you think that's the worst I've ever heard?" And I was like, wow. Like it just made all of my shame and all of my embarrassment and all of my guilt feel so like insignificant. Like, you think, one, that's the first time I've heard any of this, and two, that's the worst thing I've heard, you're good. Like it was this real moment where a spiritual leader in my world had looked at me and said, like, we're good here. You're good here. Like God's forgiven you, and this is not the worst of them all. So I think you got a lot of life ahead of you without all this guilt. So let's leave the baggage in this room. And so that was a big pivotal thing. So anyways, I say that to say, going into BF Realty and going into growing my team and going into real estate transactions, and I didn't do this study and I couldn't even point you in the direction of who did without using Google, but some university did a study and said the top 3 most stressful events in one's lifetime is divorce or marriage, very stressful times, death of a loved one, very stressful times, and moving, like having to uproot and move. So I am placed in an opportunity a lot of times to see the worst in people. There's oftentimes the biggest financial decision of their life. So anytime there's money involved, I mean, if you think a Karen gets mad, sorry to all the Karens, I love you. But if you think a Karen gets mad at Kroger over her coupon not scanning, imagine like, hundreds of thousands of dollars and then, a $5,000 repair on top of that and an $8,000 blah, blah, blah. And so you have not only financial stress over one of the biggest financial decisions, because I don't know of any other time where someone spends $500 million on one item unless it's an education or they're wealthy enough to buy a yacht one day.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention they have to make the decision typically in minutes.
Yeah. Like there's deadlines. Yeah. There's not like, let's sleep on this. This is like, so it's high pressure. Yeah. Everything's time is of the essence and time sensitive. You throw in emotions and sentimental value, or, it's personal instead of a business transaction. Everything's personal. So I've come into a place where people, I see the very, very worst in them a lot of times. And then I hopefully at the end of the day get to see the best of them because they're super excited because it all worked out. And thanks, Brittney.
Right.
But to be able to meet them with grace, the same grace that has been given to me in my life, and say, hey, we all have our moments. We all have our times. And being able to be the calm in the midst of the storm, because I've lived through a storm most of my life. Mm-hmm. And so I can see their little storm and say, hey, we're going to get to the other side and everything's going to be good, because they can't see it because they're in it right now. And all they see is the hail and the wind and the tornadoes and the hurricane. And I'm just kind of like over there, like, hey, be still and know that it's all going to work out.
Yeah. And you've really been given the tools in this journey to be able to hold space for other people through. It's not just about real estate and buying the house and it being a transactional experience. I mean, like you said, it's stressful. It's making big decisions in a small amount of time. It's trusting ourselves that we're making the right decision. There's so much pressure in so many areas, and seeing the best and the worst in someone and being able to comfort them in that time and really find compassion for it and understanding because of the chaos that you've experienced and how resilient you have been through that. What a beautiful way to be able to hold space and share that with someone else as your client. And also the element of being in the business of finding someone a home and how sounds like such a value for you is finding that comfort, that safety that was so important for you and a value for you and something it sounds like you deeply desired. And then being able to share that desire with someone else and provide them somewhere they can feel heard, seen, safe, at home, all of these things. I was going to go into what is your why behind BF Realty? Because it's so much more than just a transaction for you. It is so much more than just finding someone a new home or selling someone's home.
Yeah. Yeah. Real estate is just the vehicle that God's given me to use to change lives. Everybody has a vehicle to do their ministry or to live out their purpose, right? There's a vehicle there somewhere. Some people, they're chefs, and their means of changing people's lives is through feeding them. There's some great examples in our city of that, feed the homeless or just feed someone a warm meal. And that's their calling. That's their vehicle. Their vehicle is being a chef and cooking. Real estate just happens to be my vehicle, our vehicle to change lives, because I heard that calling loud and clear when I had Braden, the moment I had him, and he was like, whoop, yep, I'm getting you right. Your track's going to be righted now. Like, you're going to be onto the purpose, the big purpose of why you're here. And then I heard it at chirp of, I have sent you here and I've put you through all of this so that you can go change lives, and you can go help me heal souls, and you can go help me touch someone's heart to where you might be the only smile they get that day. So for us, it's just, it is truly, real estate is just the vehicle. Like, it's the way that we pay our bills, sure.
Right,
but
right.
The mission behind everything that we do is that if I can leave someone after an experience with me better than the way that I found them, then like I've lived out my purpose for that day. And I might do that 37 times in a day, and I might just do it once. But I train my agents to do the same thing. And that's kind of like building the team and building BF Realty, is that I don't want just anyone to be not necessarily in my circle, because I have a big circle. I have a lot of people in my circle that I cheer for, and I want them to sit at my table, and I want to feed them, and I want them to be successful. But I don't want to be maybe in business with just anyone, because it's kind of like divine multiplication. I want to attract and find those people who understand that the sale is not the thing, the transaction is not the thing, the check at the end of the day is not the thing. All those things will come, I promise. I don't know how, but like, it comes. But if you genuinely go out in your day and know that everyone is hurting, everyone has baggage. Not everyone has been fortunate as I to be able to go to a retreat and offload a large part of my baggage. They're still carrying around suitcases and trailers full of hurt and guilt and shame and embarrassment. And if we can walk through our lives and ease some of their trials, tribulations, their hurts, their guilt, their shame, and make them feel loved and seen and valued and heard, like, I actually care what you have to say, and taking time to listen. And just, it's literally a mission of trying to change the world, because when I'm dead and gone in 3 generations from now, what do I want my legacy to be? I don't want it to be trust fund kids. I don't want it to be, sure, we're somehow managing to build an empire or a dynasty, some people have said as of late. But really what the legacy behind BF Realty and my team is, I want to leave the world better than the way that we found it. And I want it to outlive the next 3, 4, 5 generations. I want the words that we say and the actions that we take every day to make such an impact on somebody's life that they then go and behave differently in their life at Kroger or the post office or wherever, in their own families within their own 4 walls. That's our mission.
And, and you're continuing to do it your way, Brittney, in which you've done throughout this whole entire journey through life, right? And you created this boutique brokerage. And so when you got your real estate license in 2017, you were an associate broker at the time, right? But there's different levels of being a broker. There's a principal broker, managing broker, associate broker, but now you are the principal broker. Is that right? So you have this boutique brokerage, and the way I have understood it is you have to be under a big box brand, potentially, the way you have said it in other places and spaces. You have to be a partner with a big box brand as a realtor, and you kind of have to hang your license under a broker. But now you are that broker. And so you are now building a team of agents and really creating your own rules and regulations within your own brokerage that follow your mission and values. And it sounds like you're not out chasing clients. Like you just said, you are building a culture and building a business that is deeply aligned in your mission and your values. And you're building a team that is aligned with that mission and those values as well. And you are all holding hands in this bigger mission to helping your clients live a bigger life so their kids and their spouses can live a bigger life too. Tell me a little bit more about the impact that BF Realty has had on the community. I know that year over year, you've continued to double. You've won multiple awards and have also continued to build a family-owned business. And that has impacted your family in ways that I'm sure continues to evolve and change and be exciting. Tell us a little bit about some of the success and impact Brittney Frietch Realty has had in the community.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get my broker's license until 2020. I was a salesperson from 2017 until 2020. I got my broker's license, and a broker's license is a broker's license is a broker's license, but how you hang it and how you do business is where those different levels come from. So then I was an associate broker for a bit while being a team lead. And then I became a principal broker and opened my own boutique brokerage in 2022. And the reason I did that is because I kind of looked around, and I had been doing this for long enough, 5 years at the time, to be like, I've met with enough people. I've interviewed enough people. I know what all of the brokerages around here offer because I met with them. They were, obviously wanting us to work with them. So they were kind of laying out things on the table as far as opportunities went. And nothing really stuck with me as far as that's going to be a vehicle that's going to help me on my mission and on my way. So I looked at Drew, and Drew's like, well, you've been crazy all this time. So why not? Let's be crazy one more time. And I said, why would we align ourselves with anyone that's not going to give us the freedom or the ability to do really what we want to do, which is not just real estate, but is to change the world for the better. And we opened up our own BF Realty. So that is where that came from, just kind of looking in the industry, seeing that not much has changed and everybody offers a lot of the same, just in different ways and different words and different platforms, but nothing that was getting me to where we wanted to go ultimately. And funny enough, we opened this office and I was the only one that was licensed.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Drew couldn't get licensed yet because of COVID. That was fun. And to do what we do, you don't need an office, right? Like my office is my car and my phone, and wherever I'm at is just my office. But I always had that if you build it, they will come in the back of my head. And I
share that same idea. That's funny. I kind of do things backwards in my world, and people are like, what's happening? Shouldn't we do this before you do that? I'm like, no, we're good here.
Yeah, no, don't pay any attention to me. Huh?
Yeah, right.
I can appreciate that. Yes. My whole life's been backwards. Have kids, then get married, then go to college. It's fine. Yeah. It works out.
It does work out. Just trust.
Yes. Yes. Just trust and move your feet. So I have not recruited any of our agents. Our agents have come to us by way of us attracting them, because the message of what we stand for and the message of what we do has been out there enough to where they've been watching and taking note of like, what they're doing over there is different than what everybody else is doing in the industry. And it's different than what every other broker does in the industry. And it's different than what all the other agents around me are doing. Not that different is better or worse, but it's just different. And I think people are hungry for something different. They're starving actually for something new and different that will give them more meaning, because real estate is a lot of hours. It's a lot of eating poop sandwiches. There's no better way to say it. Like, you're eating dirt a lot. Like, you're always the fall guy. You're never really getting the credit for much of anything. And it's a very difficult and demanding career choice. So unless you are doing this for a way bigger reason than yourself, it is hard to hang in there. And the turnover rate in real estate is astronomical. Like, it might be the most in any industry anywhere. So being able to attract the talented and like-minded people who are aligned with our mission to leave the world a better place, and then believing in my promise that business does come from that, I swear. And it being a little bit of a roller coaster ride too, because as everyone knows, the general public knows, there's busy seasons and there's slow seasons. There's times of eating well and harvest, and there's times of drought and starving. And to be able to align ourselves with people that believe in, see in, and live out the mission of real estate is just the vehicle, and real estate will come, transactions will come, clients will come. But if you go out, you will attract what you're putting out into the world. So if you're going out and you're trying to make the person who's standing in line of you smile that day or better because of the conversation they may have with you, it might be small talk. But if you go out every day in your life looking to change the world for the better, God will take care of you.
What are some of those values specifically that you talk to your team about and that are sort of non-negotiables for you, and how you really embody life? And how are you, when you speak of being different, how are you disrupting the industry with those values?
Yeah. Well, funny thing, Drew and I did real estate kind of before we got into real estate, and we didn't even really like real estate agents at all. It's interesting I'm saying that out loud, but for every 10 agents we had met during our times of buying and selling and investing and flipping, there was 1 out of 10 agents that we actually kind of liked, like maybe a slither, because a lot of times it was, what's the split? How much money am I taking home? What's the bottom line? What's my percentage? What's this? And this is on headlines nationally now with the NAR proposed settlement. So that always rubbed me the wrong way as a customer, as a consumer, just kind of like, oh, they're just out for the money. And it's like, how much can they get? And can they nickel and dime? And can they swindle? Or what can they do to just push it through so they can get the check at the end of the day? And anyone that we align ourselves with, and agents who are, looking or calling in to maybe be a part of what we're doing because they see what we're doing is different. And they're like, we're curious on what they're doing. When they start getting into like nickels and dimes and splits and percentages, I'm just like, this isn't what we're doing here. Not that any of that's bad here. It's very competitive. However, if that's one of the top 3 things that you're concerned about, if you're getting into this industry, this is not the place for you, because that's not what we're doing here. Like, your life, your spouse's life, your children's life, your family's life, you will live a bigger life than what you've ever been able to live before. And we have agents who have testimony of that, who have been here, for a couple of years now, and they're living a really great life that they want to live. But their number one thing wasn't, how am I getting paid? It's like, you have to buy into the why of what we're doing is bigger than us. What we're doing is bigger than me. And sometimes, people are like, well, how many agents are you going to have? Or where's this train going? And I'm like, listen, I'm not driving. And they're like, wait, what? I'm not driving this train. I pray every day for discernment and like where we're supposed to go and what we're supposed to do, and give me the direction and where, of what you want for my life and how you want me to change people's lives and who to change today. But I can pretty well figure out in the first 30 seconds of talking to somebody if they're going to align with what we believe in here. It's an interesting interview process because a lot of the questions I ask have nothing to do with real estate. It is just, it's trying to figure out who they are and what they stand for and what their beliefs are. And I think, the feedback in the last 7 years of what we've been able to do in real estate has been such that they're like, I've bought and sold 10 houses. And I've never experienced something like this. So I know that what we do works. And it's just been this tidal wave. It started as like a ripple, and now it's turned into this tidal wave of good. And, so every day I'm like, I'll write on the board, whose life have you changed today? Like, that's my question. Who did you make better today? Or what did you do today to make yourself the best version of yourself? Have you done anything today to make you better? Well, then that's not a good day. You probably need to get on out of here and figure out what you're doing today to either change someone else's life or help your life change. And business and checks and clients and transactions all do come from that. I don't have an equation to say this is the percentage of times that will work out to your benefit. But I am the living, breathing, walking example of, if you live out your purpose without fear of what's on the other side, without fear of looking at your bank account all the time, or without fear of like, oh gosh, what if you just do and move your feet intelligently, right? Like, pray about it, be in alignment with your spirit, like knowing like this is the direction I'm supposed to go. Don't just go dive off any old cliff. But it comes out in the wash. It's a good Kentucky saying. It comes out in the wash.
How do you think you're making your clients feel? Or what are some of those testimonies around how they have felt? Because at the end of the day, it's a feeling, right? Going back to that, it's not about the buying of the house. It's how you're feeling through the experience.
Yeah.
So what are your clients feeling?
They feel like family, and not the kind of family that I had.
Yeah.
The kind of family that makes you want to sit down and stay a while and have a warm meal together. Like they feel like I'm family. Like I will hear that they're pregnant before anybody else will.
How do you accomplish that? Not only how do you accomplish that, Brittney, but how do you share that gift with your team and elevate your team and lead in an inspiring way?
Yeah. There's a lot of different leadership styles that you can choose when leading people. And the one, I'm not even sure that I knew of all the leadership styles, even with a business management degree, as embarrassing as that is to say out loud. But the one that I have happened myself into is the servant's leadership style. So I lead my agents as a servant, and I lead my clients through transactions as a servant. So I am very much washing others' feet. I am very much doing the jobs that they're like, what, you shouldn't be doing this. And I'm like, yeah, but if I'm going to ask somebody else to do it, I will also be down here doing it. Or, if they're going through a hard time and inspections have hit the fan, or the appraisal or this or that, or something has really gotten even more hard, like more difficult than just the moving itself, I won't just be like, ignoring their call or avoiding the conflict or avoiding the conversation or, letting them sleep on it and we'll deal with this tomorrow and hopefully it goes away. Like, I'll crawl into the ditch with them. Like, hey, let's sit in this for a minute, but let's not sit too long. Because if you sit and poop for too long, you start smelling like it. So let's sit in it, waller in it for a minute, and then let's giddy up and go and get out of here for the greater good. But being able to kind of crawl in with someone when they're going through what's hard for them in their life, and then letting them know. And I think that comes from me being able to say to my agents and myself that, think about some things you've been through. You've been through some hard things. Like, you've been through some really hard stuff. And someone probably saw some good in you or saw you in that dark place and helped you out of it. That's the whole mission here, is to see them in it, go into the darkness with them, and then ultimately be able to pull them out. And real estate, again, is the vehicle for us to be able to do that, because it's top 3 most stressful things that people go through in life. And all of our agents are like, yeah, I've been through hard things. I've done hard things. And there's been people in my life that have reached down and grabbed my hand and said, hey, let's go. Let's keep pushing forward. And I ask if they're able to be that person in their career. And there's always a resounding yes, absolutely. I will get in the ditch with my people. And at the end of the day, you will be rewarded one way or the other. It might not look like what you think it's going to look like, or it might, but the faith to say, what I'm doing is bigger than me, and it's bigger than this transaction, and it's bigger than this client. And when you're able to do that, people walk away feeling like it's almost like closer than family. because it's this intimate relationship where you saw them at their worst and you got them through the other side, and, you're a part of their life forever. And even if they've bought or sold, like I have shared before, 10 houses before, they've never experienced it quite like this.
So much beauty in everything that you said. And the servant leadership piece, of course, shines so brightly in everything that you do. What do you do for yourself? And what do you tell your team to do for themselves to refill their cup and to nurture you and to nurture themselves? That way they have enough to continue to give to everyone that you serve.
Yeah. I tell them often that I need them to refill their cup every day because I'm asking them to pour the cup out, and you can't pour from an empty cup. So everyone's different. Some people like to meditate. Some people like to run. Some people, they just have their different ways of refilling. And fortunately for me, the way that I refill is not of this earth. So I don't rely on a person. I don't rely on an activity. I don't rely on anything earthly to refill my bucket, because there is no way I would have the stamina to do what I do, because it's exhausting. And I don't really sleep. I take naps, 4 to 6 hour naps every night. And then I'm just 3:30 a.m. I'm right back at it. So I pour out my cup every single day, incomplete, empty, no, not even fume. The fumes are gone. And so I refill my soul through my relationship with Christ, through just talking to him all throughout the day. Even if I don't even know what to say, I'd be like, Lord, help. Lord, send help. If you could just send help. And every day I pray the armor of God over me, and I put on the breastplate, and I carry my sword, and I put on the helmet, and I do that because I know what I'm about to do is going to be very hard. And if it's just me doing this, I'm not going to be able to. So that's how I refill my cup, is through prayer and an active relationship with God. I tell my kids, you can't find your shoes. Have you asked St. Anthony, please help find my shoes? And I think I attribute that to my mom and her ability to kind of rattle off scripture any time of the day or night or evening. And then my chirp experience to be able to kind of lean in on that. Because truly, if I had to rely on meditation, or if I had to rely on working out, or if I had to rely on anything here, I would be over in a ditch waller and just asleep.
Right. Yeah.
Because what I demand of myself and demand of my agents, it is exhausting, because I'm asking you to give your life to this, it's your purpose to do.
And I think it's probably really important for you and for your team to ask for support when they need it. How do you encourage that? Or how do you even ask for help?
Yeah.
And I think as women, it's we have this reservation about ever asking for the support we need or the help that we need. We're just going to charge through.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah. What we have here is our own little family. And again, I think I've been able to build a home, and I've been able to build a family with my husband and my kids, and now a family business, and then a family within my office of my age. My agents are my family now, their kids, their spouses. I look at them like they're a part of my family. And it's, again, not the dysfunctional family that I came from, but it was the family that I always wanted. I always wanted a better family that was supportive, or that I could call and just cry to, or complain to, or share my successes with, and they would be equally as excited as I was, instead of being jealous or having some ulterior motive of wanting to hear or not hear of my success. So when they all come here, and when I bring someone on and decide they're a good fit to be here, it is told to them, this is your new family. So actually, there's an agent, and she would share this testimony, but she's been here now almost 2 years. And she met with me on a Friday. I knew she was going to be a great fit, within the first 30 seconds. And she told me at the end of the meeting, if you'll have me, I would love to be here. I said, I need you to go home and tell your husband about your new family. And she was like, so she did. And her husband has told me this story because literally like that weekend that she came on, we had like the 4th of July parade. We have a agent appreciation event at our home where we invite our agents, their spouses, their kids, everyone comes swims and fishes at Frietch Farm, and we feed them. And it's like, you're in my home. We're breaking bread. Like, we are family. And it was that weekend. So she was like, so you're going to get to meet your new family tomorrow. We're going to go to their house. And the husband's like, she came home and was like, you're about to meet your new family. And I'm like, huh? And, like a year and a half, 2 years later, he's like, I get it. Like, it didn't even take him that long. Like, it took a couple weeks and he's like, I get it. Like, this is my family. Like, this is a new extension of my family. And that's so to have that support, which is, again, something I never had growing up. I never had that support. So I've been able to create that. And just like I've been able to buy and sell homes and flip them and stage them and turn them into these Pottery Barn magazines, I've been able to really build a family because I always dreamed of it. Like, I could intricately piece together what the mom and the dad and the kids and the, squabbling siblings and like what all of that would look like, but I never had it. So I think if I had come from all of that, there would have been lacking some skill sets or tools or vision to build something this special, because you're not dreaming about it all the time, or you're not wishing for it all the time. So when you're able to, you have the opportunity to build something that you're like, man, this has been a dream of mine for my whole life, and to make it that special. And then everybody else is like, yes, like your clients feel like they're family. They're part of we have just a BF family. It's like, welcome to the family. At my listing appointments, I tell my sellers, like, if you decide to hire me, I know that you're interviewing lots of other people, but I need you to know, like, if you choose to hire me and our office, like, you don't get rid of us. Like, we're just like, I know that you're moving to Arizona, but like, we're family now and I might come visit. So as long as you're cool with that.
Wow.
So yeah.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. I just want to touch on a little bit about how you are, because you have three children, you and your husband are running this business and are doing it so beautifully. How are you finding balance, Brittney? How are you? So talk to me a little bit about integrating the family and how roles and responsibilities have evolved and changed from being a stay-at-home mom to now, having a family-owned business, and how that has impacted each of you individually and then collectively as a family unit.
Yeah. Well, if you listen to any other realm that I've talked in, you'll probably know that I think that balance is the biggest lie told to society, or one of them. Ranks in the top 10 biggest lies. Sure. Like, if you're chasing balance, you will exhaust yourself because you're never going to catch it. There are going to be seasons in your life and chapters in your life where work's going to demand more of you, family's going to demand more of you. And and if you are happy, if you can learn to be happy in that groove of understanding that this week, this is going to demand my time here, and this week, this is going to demand more of my time here, and there's not going to be a balance. But if you're aligned in your soul and in your spirit and with yourself, you can't go through unbalanced and unaligned. Like, you can be aligned. So you're just kind of like this ship going through sails, right? Like, it's just like the wind's going to blow one way or the other, a little bit more than one way or the other. Like, but it'll come back around, right? Like, it's this ever moving and growing evolution of life. Of course, there was a lot of coming to Jesus talks. We were at the table of, hey guys, mom can't cut your sandwiches into butterflies anymore, and you might actually have to get up and pack your lunch. So there was a lot of those conversations, and it certainly was not easy. It wasn't easy for Drew. It wasn't easy for me. It wasn't easy for the kids, or even our friends, or the people who were accustomed to having us in a different way than what they could have us now that we were building this family business. But I have been able to explain to Drew and I discussing, but Drew and I have been able to explain to our kids, and we also have our agents go home and explain it to their spouse and their children at home, that what we're doing and what we're about to start building is going to demand a lot of my time. But this is why I'm doing it. And let me share some stories or examples, or how when you fell at the soccer field and you had a boo-boo and you were bleeding and somebody came over and they helped you up and they got you a Band-Aid and cleaned you up, and how good that made you feel. I'm working on doing that on like a million times scale of helping people in pivotal moments in their life. And they will know intimately a lot of our client stories because they're in the car when I'm on the phone, right? They're like, and then they're asking questions about like, who is that and what's going on? And so being able to explain to our kids how their life was about to be flipped upside down because they were going to have all of mom 110% to like maybe not even 50% sometimes because work was going to demand more. But when my kids are, playing a game, a sport or something, and then they see me step aside to take a call, it's not like they're disappointed that I stepped away to take a call. They understand that the only reason I took that call is because that call is bigger than us. It's bigger than this game. It's almost like a thumbs up, like, go change the world, mom. Like, go change the world.
Go make a difference.
Yeah, because I know what you're doing is bigger than me.
Wow. Wow. What a great reframe for being passionate about the work that we're doing in the world and how we are communicating to our families and setting an example and being a model for our values and our true mission in life and how it is bigger than us. And and going back to that servant leadership. And it's like this term of, you just have a team of light workers hitting, our community and just lifting people up, and your clients are feeling held and supported and seen and heard, and all while cultivating this new experience of buying or selling a home in a way that they've never experienced before. And wow, it's just been such a pleasure, Brittney. So thanks for sharing your story with us today. I have no doubt it has inspired so many. I'm certainly inspired. A few closing questions for you.
Yeah.
Where do you find joy?
I think joy is found for me in my journey, like just the journey of it all, like whether it be a good day or a bad day. I think the fact that I'm given the opportunity, and I think losing a sibling at just 1.5 years old has given me a different outlook on life than most, because I've looked death in the eye of a young child who, why give a child and then take a child away kind of thing, right? So I view life very differently. I watched my brother take his last breath at a very young age in my mom's arms. So joy to me is just being able to live. The opportunity of going on this journey every day, whether it's raining or snowing or hailing or sunshine or whatever circumstance or situation I'm going to be thrown in that day. The fact that I am fortunate enough to have a few gray hairs on my head now, which I pluck, but like to be able to see wrinkles, coming into the sides of my eyes, and to have a burrow in my brow from all the expressions that I've made in my journey. But I think my joy comes from that I feel fortunate that I'm 36 years old and still like alive and living and have the opportunity to do life, because I have seen very, very young again that opportunity is not awarded to everyone.
Beautiful. What does it mean to you to live a consciously inspired life?
I think living without fear of what's to come is my biggest consciously inspired life, of, again, with alignment and with discernment and constantly checking in with your spirit and where you're at. How does that make you feel? Is it settled or unsettled? And is this the direction you're supposed to go in? But then walking in that without fear of what's on the other side, or without researching it to death, because I think dreams and goals and a lot of life's missions go to the graveyard of research. And I think if you're researching to death, or you're numbering to death, or you're splitting or percentaging, or like if you're just in this whole research and development phase, like that's where a great life and dreams and goals go to die. So I think being able to just plunge forward, and if it doesn't work, what's the worst thing that happens? Like, golly, like you can always try something else, do something else, like it's not like that's the end. Like I've witnessed the end, and that's certainly not the end of whatever decision you're about to make. But I think living without fear of that. And when I say that, I mean like moving your feet, taking action, and doing things instead of sitting around and talking about it all the time and letting kind of fear get in the way of your destiny.
I love that. And I saw this acronym for fear that you may have read or heard, or maybe our listeners have, but it's forget everything and rise, or forget everything and run. So it's like, let's just continue with consistency. Let's continue to show up even when we don't feel like it, even when we're scared, even when we're unsure. Let's just continue to forget everything and rise, right? Consistency for the win, and coming back to what we deeply desire and what we imagine in the world. And you're after something so much bigger than real estate, right? You're providing an experience and making tremendous love, generosity, impact, leadership in the world, not only in this community, but in the world. And you're expanding, right? So not only are you in Loveland, but tell us where you're going to be.
So
yeah.
Our Fort Thomas location is opening this month. Gosh, it's April.
Wow.
It'll be opening this
we're
month.
Here.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, it's April already?
I know.
Which is kind of a scary thing too, because that's going back to like my hometown state where a lot of my shame and guilt and embarrassment and poor choices and things were from, right? But we're going there. Last year, I had the opportunity to go to our nation's capital and speak at a CEO and leadership exchange, and they've invited me back recently. So I'll be back in Washington, D.C. in September to speak again. And I keep sharing because I know that's what I'm supposed to do. And I don't know the direction of which like God's going to put me on. Real estate for sure. Again, that's the vehicle of all of this. And that's awarded me the platform to be able to share my story, and hopefully people can resonate or see some of themselves in some of my story, and it can change their lives for the better. And I, just like this invitation that you put out, Brandy, like, I'm always open to saying yes, and not only supporting other women, but small business owners or just people and humans in general and their endeavors and their hopes and dreams and goals. But then also, putting myself out there even more too. I don't know who's going to listen to this. Now they're going to know I'm a teen mom, right? Like, so just continuing to share my story, continuing to expand our message, and using the vehicle of real estate to do so.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And I just want to bring everyone back around to the point that you made earlier. I don't think that we closed this message completely, and I think this is really important. When you were driving through downtown Loveland, asking the Lord to, if this is meant for me, put my office right there. Put my office right there on the corner of Carl Brown. Let everybody know where your office is today, Brittney.
Yes. So our flagship office is 102 Carl Brown Way, sandwiched right between Lemons and Limes Boutique and Bond Furniture and Design, and across the street from Cincy Shirts and Montgomery Cyclery. So that exact corner, and I was very exact in my prayer. Like, I didn't say just down here somewhere. I said, it'll be right here in this corner, like just right here. It'll just be here if this is what I'm supposed to do. And here we are.
I have the biggest smile on my face. I know you guys can't see this right now, and it just had chills run through my body. Brittney, I mean, wow, right? Yeah. The power of God, source, divine, whatever you want to call it, right? It's there, and it's for us, and it's holding us.
The spoken word, even just saying it out loud to yourself, like talking about your dreams, talking about your hopes, talking about your goals, even if it's just yourself in the mirror, talking about them out loud, like that's a very powerful thing. The spoken word's a very powerful thing. So if you have hopes, goals, dreams, and things that you want to accomplish, don't just be thinking about them in the shower, or before you go to bed, like, man, it would be nice if I did this or this. Like, just say it out loud in your car, or like just talk about it to other people. They might think you're crazy. A lot of people thought I was crazy when I said it, but we're here now.
Amazing. Amazing. Where can people find you?
Oh, we're everywhere. We are.
This is very true.
Yeah, we're everywhere. We are all over the internet. Whatever social media platform you prefer, we're there. If you like TikTok, we're there. If you like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. We have obviously 2 office locations now, 102 Carl Brown and then 1107 South Fort Thomas Avenue. And our website, bfrealtyhomes.com. We are always reachable there. Or you can find me on the sidelines of any hometown game. I'll be there.
Beautiful. And we'll put links to all the spaces and places in the show notes. Brittney, thank you so much. It's been, again, such a pleasure spending time with you today. And I wish you the best of luck. And thank you for everything that you're doing for our community, for our families, and for the world. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Brandy.
All right, everybody. Until next time. Bye-bye. That's all for today. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. If you'd like to learn more about Consciously Inspired Minds, you can visit us at consciouslyinspiredminds.com. If these episodes have you wondering how you can design a life uniquely inspired by you, head on over to modelifestylecoaching.com. That's MODE lifestylecoaching.com and schedule a free call. I'd love to learn more about your deepest desires and how we can get you closer to your authentic life vision and impact. Until we connect again, explore what inspires you.